Running with the Devils. We are back talking everything Arizona State football. I'm the RyKno, Ryan Knowles. Here with me as always, my partner in crime, Big John Caldwell. What up, Big John?
Hey, victory.
Hey, and it's a great day to be a Sun Devil because we're talking another victory, 3 in a row to start the 2024 season. The first time the Sun Devils are 3-0 to open a season since 2019, and it's really good time to be talking ASU football, and we're going to get into everything here. We're breaking down the Texas State game that was actually a week ago tonight, Big John. This is a long week coming up here for the Devils. There's a chance for them to get healthy as they will start their inaugural Big 12 schedule by going on the road and facing the Texas Tech Red Raiders in Lubbock this weekend, and we'll be breaking that all down for you. Of course, we'll be talking. We're getting into the Big 12 a little bit, the Big 12 swing of things, talking our expectations and predictions for what we can expect the Devils to be in this new schedule. It starts for everybody this weekend. Of course, we get that big matchup with Utah and Oklahoma State this weekend as well. So, a lot to get into, Big John. It's an exciting time in college football for sure.
Yeah, it is. I think we're all pretty. We're going to this not knowing all the known unknowns or the no. But at this point, it's. I think if everybody just approaches this one game at a time, just like the team is, we're going to be fine. Don't get too out over our skis. This is still we have a young quarterback.
Get an idea of who's who and what's what and all that good stuff. That's what makes this time of year very interesting and very fun to watch. To kind of find the cream rising to the top and who still has a ways to go as far as their program being a contender. So, but we're talking ASU and their big win over Texas State. They got down 21-7 in the second quarter. But then they rallied, and the defense was huge in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter, to key their third victory on the season. They matched their win total from each of the past 2 seasons. Big John, definitely a nice milestone there.
Yeah, and I love the attitude though of the coach, and he's trying to keep everybody humble, keep their heads screwed on straight by saying we're nobody. We haven't done anything yet. We're still the underdog. Keep everybody hungry,
Yes.
and that's the absolute right attitude right now to have.
Yeah. Fans a chance to go 4-0 for the first time since 2016 when they beat the Red Raiders in Tempe. Yeah, of course, everybody remembers Kalen Balage's legendary 8-touchdown performance, outdueling Patrick Mahomes and the Red Raiders in Tempe back in 2016. I remember being at that game very well, Big John, celebrating the 20-year anniversary of the 96 Rose Bowl team with my good friend Juan Roque. That night, Jake Plummer bought the round, bought all the drinks on Mill after that game. So that was a fun time.
And just like as that was historic, this game too can be historic because this is our first game in the Big 12. And you don't get too many of those in your career when you can look back and say this was a historic, milestone night.
First game in a new conference. That's right. And ASU going back to Texas, we'll be seeing this quite a bit. They'll be facing. They got four conference teams in Texas, so they'll be making that trek quite a bit. Going forward. But they'll be back in Texas facing the Red Raiders on Saturday after just having been in San Marcos this last Thursday. And they haven't played since their matchup in 2017 when Nate Shimanek and the Red Raiders outdueled the Sun Devils 52-45. I remember that game very well. N'Keal Harry had a couple of nice touchdown catches in that game. Looked like it was a game ASU probably should have won, but they really didn't have any answer for Cliff Kingsbury's offense in that game.
I was looking at something I was reading today, really stuck out. You realize it's been 24 years since the Pirate came to Texas Tech, 24 years ago, and he brought his
Mike Leach. Yep.
Mike Leach brought that high-powered passing offense to.
Yeah.
It seemed
the true air raid, throwing the ball 50 times.
It just didn't.
Game, and
it's
kind of stuck with them ever since.
Yeah, it has. But to think about, it seems like yesterday. It was 24 years ago. You were just a young child. I realize.
I was still in high school back then.
Yeah,
but I do remember Mike Leach very well when I was in college.
Well, what an innovator!
And started to watch college football a little bit more consistently, and that's he kind of helped really put Texas Tech on the map as a destination, as somebody who could coach up offensive players.
Yep.
And they were always in decent bowl games. They usually played the game out here a lot of times.
Yeah, but they were always second fiddle to Texas and Texas A&M, and they always had that mantle. Will they ever get over? And Texas owns them. But
they had a big win. Michael Crabtree. They had a big win over them. I think it was in 2008.
I think you're right.
2007 maybe.
Yeah.
I remember they had a big win over them. Michael Crabtree had a big touchdown to win that game for them. So they've had some moments though. Texas Tech has. I mean, certainly a very storied program, and they certainly have their loyal fans. They'll be out in full force on Saturday, to be sure.
55,000, 60,000 of them. Yeah, it's gonna be a madhouse there.
But the Devils do manage to stay unbeaten. So we'll recap here that the win over Texas State last Thursday, edging out the Bobcats 31-28. This was a 21-21 game at the half. It looked like it was going to be a shootout, and then the defenses both step up in the second half, and it was the Devils who managed to outlast a very talented Bobcats team. Anyone who says that even though they're in the Sun Belt, they don't have same caliber of athlete, man, that's a very talented team. I think they definitely proved that even in a loss last weekend.
I think we were all very impressed with the caliber of players this coach has brought in and how well coached they were.
And you and I both thought it was going to be a close game. I don't think they weren't really sneaking up on anybody. We all kind of, if you watched our show from last week, you remember we were giving Texas State all kind of props because they had a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. We knew they were going to be able to move the ball. We weren't sure how they were going to be able to stop the run, but they did an excellent job of that. And it was the ASU defense that had to step up and come up with some stops in the fourth quarter. They forced 3 turnovers, and including a fumble that ultimately led to the game-winning field goal. And then they had to go out there and do it all over again later on, and even had to force a fumble on an basically what was an untimed down. I mean, there was like 1 second left after the teams had already left and everything, and the refs forced them to come back out. Little home cooking on the clock there, Big John. You and I were both very frustrated by that play.
It was. Somebody was asleep at the switch. They were already checked out, I guess, or something. Who knows?
Or just didn't care, or thought they could buy another second for Texas State, which they did.
Yeah.
Luckily, it ended up not making a difference. But the fact that ASU was able to win a game, when they had been, it was obvious they were a running team through the first 2 weeks. That was their strength. That was their identity as a run first team. But Texas State packed the box and made an effort to slow down Cam Scatterbo and the rushing attack. And Sam Levitt, to his credit, did a great job beating them over the top with some nice throws. He did miss on a few, which we kind of expected, but he also, I thought he showed some great poise in the pocket. He made some plays with his legs.
Well, he extended
some plays.
He ran, he ran for 2 TDs, right? And Cam ran for 1.
Well, he snuck it in for 1. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, he did. And then he did have that one right at the end of the half where he improvised and went out to the edge.
So that still remains his biggest strength, I think, is his legs. And everybody keeps saying, who does he remind you? To me, Sam when chaos ensues and he has good vision, he does remind me a little of Taylor Kelly as far as his ability to string out a play and make and get you extra yards with his legs. Now I still like to see him go down and slide. He's starting to slide more, but man, that's still not his instinct. He likes contact,
Well,
or he's used to
well,
contact.
and you mentioned that he's just not very good at sliding. You know,
Yeah,
he doesn't have like a baseball background or
right.
anything, so he's not real familiar with it. But yeah, I mean, it was good. He didn't take too many hits against Texas State, which was nice to see.
Hmm.
So, and he definitely, managed to lead the team forward and help them win in his own way. And he made some big throws as
Hmm.
well. I mean, there made some nice throws up the seam to hit the tight ends. A touchdown pass to Jordan Tyson really showed off his arm strength. Granted, Tyson kind of had to wait on the ball, and
That's right.
he made some nice moves after the catch to get in the end zone. So, still some work to be done, to be sure, but we can see the foundation is there for Sam
Yeah,
Levitt to be a successful quarterback.
and I think what you're starting to see is Sam honing in on certain receivers and understanding how to get to where they like to put the ball. And that's always the mark of a maturing quarterback to me, is that they start
As long as he doesn't stare him down and kind of single guys
Oh
out,
yeah,
and
right.
not afraid to spread the ball around,
Mhm. That's right.
I think he'll be fine.
But
That.
you saw Tyson in that play, his ability to beat his man by 3 yards, by 40, to get
Oh yeah.
separation. And the fact that he had to stop and turn around and wait for the ball, I contend that was probably reason why it was completed. That's an easier target for Sam.
Well,
So
that's how he was able. I think that's how he was able to score. I mean, if he
that's
hits
right.
Jordan Tyson in stride,
Yeah.
I don't know if he might beat his man to the pylon, or he might have gotten pushed out of bounds and it's first and goal. But the fact that he was able to, that he had to wait on it, the DB kind of overran the play, and Jordan was able to spin back to the middle
Yeah.
and find his way into the end zone. Was really good. Was really the kind of one of the defining plays of that game.
Hmm.
But yeah, as we move on, you talk about some of the other stars from this game. Even though Cam Scatterbo didn't have a great day rushing the ball, especially when you consider it, when you look at his record-setting performance against Mississippi State. Still a solid game, still a factor in the game
Yep.
plan, and he's still, say what you want about the guy. He is a just money around the red zone and short yardage.
Right.
And he only averaged about 3 yards a carry, but he did find the end zone a couple times and was a factor in the passing game. And then what's a quarterback's best friend? A good tight end.
It's big
And
old tight end
I think that's
who
what
can
he
block
has in Shimon Medier.
off the edge. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what he has in Shimon Medier right now.
I
He had a
can't
nice
disagree.
game, 5 receptions, 57 yards. That's another guy that he's looking for out there, and Medier's finding ways to get open. They're finding him in different ways, and you look for the other tight ends as well up the seam. They were open. He had Cameron Harpole on a play up the
Wide
middle
open.
that Harpole keeps his legs. He could walk into the end zone because there was nobody around him. And then he tried to find Marqueson Douglas for another play that was a little bit overthrown and they got intercepted. But still a lot to like from Sam Levitt, spreading the ball around and finding different receivers out there. And Texas State, they did put up some yards. First half they looked like there was a couple drives there where they were moving the ball at will, and it looked like ASU's defense was either tired or just straight up unprepared.
We were a little undermanned too.
Yes, especially up front.
Yeah.
That was the case. We did have a few defensive linemen out,
Mhm.
but just 7 points in the second half, and even with that extra play after the game had supposedly ended, they were still, the defense was just money in that second half, especially, Xavier Alford with the big interception, Shamari Simmons with the forced fumble, Clayton Smith, Miles Rouser. Just you can go on down the line. Keith Abney and Javon Robinson, the sophomore corners, both made big plays at times. They got beat on a couple plays too, but when the chips were when they needed plays from their DBs, those guys definitely stepped up.
Yeah. And we'll get into our players of the game here in a minute, but I thought um, we did a real good job of bending but not breaking, so to speak.
Yes.
The linebackers were really essential in some of that, and you'll see the numbers here in a minute on how well the kind of production, and it's really you can tell. What I love about this team is nobody's afraid to make that first tackle. You know what I mean? And the number of assists we're making it assisted tackles are big right now, and
Oh yeah,
that means everybody wants
it's
in
a
on it.
group effort. It really is a group effort.
Right,
It's rarely is it one guy. It's
right.
usually couple, two, three guys meeting up at the ball carrier,
Yeah.
more often than not. So yeah, that's what you want. You want a pack mentality in your
Hmm.
defense. Not just one guy um, doing it by himself.
Yep.
It's a multitude of guys, meeting up at the ball carrier so that they don't get away. Because you can dodge one tackler, but two or three is a lot harder. So
If you go back and look at the history of really, really good ASU defenses, the assisted tackles were always big numbers, always were huge. There was always like three or four guys in double digits. So, and I see that going
yeah,
on early, and
and they
that's
had
not
so that's what
that's an identity thing. Is my point.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. Pack mentality, I think, is
Yep.
what I call it. So
Yeah. Yep.
I think that's it's a group effort. Certainly, it's rarely one guy doing it by himself, and I think that's the attitude that this defense has adopted.
Right.
So yeah, getting into our players of the game presented by Valley Athletic Booster Club. To support local athletics, check out valleyathleticboosterclub.com. And for me, um, I talked about Sam Levitt. He had he did have some struggles at his first turnover of the season, but he continues to get it done. And this time,
Yep.
even though he didn't, threw for about 60 yards against Mississippi State, Texas State was packing the box, trying to take away the run, forcing Sam Levitt to beat them, and beat them he did. He had a nice game, 19 to 30, 246 yards, and that long touchdown pass to Jordan Tyson. He also had 40 rushing yards and uh, ran the ball in
A single
right
time.
before the half to
Right.
tie up the game. So yeah, he's my player of the game because I came away very impressed with what he was able to do when Texas State took away the run.
You gotta love
Uh,
Shamari. I mean, he
yeah.
looked like. I mean, he
Oh,
made one of the classic best tackles you'll ever see.
well, you're gonna see that on highlight reels for years to come because he
That's
just
how to
blew up the guy.
properly.
They throw a screen to his side.
Yeah.
The wide receiver was late coming over to get the block, and Shamari just shot right by him and blew up the ball carrier, and just big decleating tackle
Right.
that you're gonna see over and over again on ASU highlight reels for a long time.
Yeah. It
And
was nice.
yeah, it's seven total tackles. He had two big tackles for loss, and he just continues to show out and be a leader on that defense. And he's so much fun to watch because they love to line him up all over the place. He's usually playing back a little bit in safety, but they'll bring him up into the box or they'll line him up as the nickel corner because he can stay with some of those receivers. And he just continues to. I didn't even put his forced fumble on
Right.
here that ultimately was the different proved to be the difference in the game after the field goal. So
It's really evident to me, Ryan, that he is really good, really into the film study. In other words,
oh yeah,
you cannot be that disruptive and shooting gaps like that without reading, knowing on film what the tendencies are of people. So
yeah, and it shows in his play. Absolutely. I mean, he's always lined up in the right spot. He's usually directing other guys in the secondary where they need to get lined up.
hmm
He's he's being a leader out there. He's on the Pac-12 leadership count, so
right.
Pat Tillman leadership council.
It,
So
that
he's taking that role seriously, and he's also leading by example with plays week in
yeah.
and week out. The guy continues to be a playmaker.
He's reminding me he's playing a lot like Buda Baker, man. It's just right now, just see ball, get ball. But it's all not just happening by instinct. He's a really good film study guy. So hats off to Shamari.
Yeah,
Mine,
we haven't really had ASU hasn't really had a safety
no.
quite like him in a while. I
Mm-mm.
mean, Keelan Johnson maybe comes to mind.
Well,
Alden Darby was a corner,
yeah,
but he,
Simone had would shoot gaps like
mm,
that,
yeah,
and was a good film study guy. And he's sold out all the time, made classic looking tackles, and
oh
they would
yeah,
inspire the rest of the defense. Yeah, he was. It's been a while, but so my two were Jordan Tyson. I mean, he came to play. 6 receptions, 129. He could show he can get that big separation when you need it. One TD, 53 yard long TD. And going back and looking at while Ghost really had one more tackle, I think Keyshawn's he's covering so much ground. Man, he is really getting outside and just shutting down plays. But he had 2 solos, 10 assists, 12 totals, and he was in on that tackle for loss. So Keyshawn, Ghost got it last week. You got it this week.
well, and that was a big play because you talk about shooting gaps.
Yeah.
Keyshawn's doing that a lot himself, and he on that third down play, he shoots the gap. Might have been second or third down when he shoots the gap and
Mhm.
just blows up that toss to
Yes,
the outside. Man, that was a tone setting play right
it
there.
was.
That just fired up the rest of the defense. You could tell everybody was playing with an extra hitch in their step because plays like that setting the tone. That's what Keyshawn Elliott has done since the start of this season. He just continues to go out there and make plays and set the tone for the rest of the
Well,
defense
and he's
with
calling
what he's
play.
doing.
He's calling the defense too.
Yeah, he is
Remember,
the quarterback of the defense. That's true.
right, right. So,
He's
yeah,
the green dot.
yeah, he's living up to that hype that he was my player to watch this year on
Yeah, and
defense.
with the departure of Elijah Badger, we kind of figured that Jordan Tyson would be the guy in the receiving corps,
Nice,
the
healthy.
go-to receiver,
Right.
and obviously, guys, he still has to step up and be that guy, and so far he has. I've been very impressed. He comes into ASU last year after showing a ton of potential at Colorado.
Oh yeah, he
We
killed
kind of
us.
expected some things. Oh yeah, expected some things from him last year. He gets hurt. You never know how that's going to affect a guy, especially when he misses a full season.
Right.
And he comes into spring and just works his tail off. And you can tell it in his play. It's not just all talent with him and all physical skill. He, legitimately loves the game. He loves to go out there and work, and he's put in the work with
Yeah.
Sam Levitt to get on the same page and starting to show up on the stat
Well,
sheet.
I'll tell you, right, I'm very fortunate that I get to go to practice a lot, but I saw him a lot in the spring, and I saw quite a few fall practices, and he really didn't whip into form until about the last 2 week, about the last week really of last 10 days or so of fall practice. It was not quite clicking. But man, but I think he's right there. His form is there. His speed, his hands are great. So yes, it's come all at the right time. It's really
Yeah,
gratifying.
yeah.
So
So
yeah,
really,
it's
really nice to see some of these guys have big games, and they are our players of the game, presented by the Valley Athletic Booster Club. Now we enter into the Big 12 schedule, Big John, and we talked about this a little bit at the beginning of during our season preview, but
mhm.
I just kind of wanted to revisit it as we get into the conference schedule. You know, ASU comes in 3-0. That's great, but now things start to tick up a little bit as far as the competition and level of play and
Mhm.
athletes that you're going to see. My question is, what are we going to expect? What can we expect? How is the Big 12 going to differ from the Pac-12? And what are you going to be looking for in some of these games as Big 12 play gets started?
Well, I always start with the quarterbacks, um, and I'm looking for as we start to play each other in this conference, who is the head, who's 3 dB higher in terms of the noise level, and there's still three teams in my mind. I think this weekend's game, the Oklahoma State Utah game, will tell us a lot. Two 25-year-old quarterbacks, um, but really those two I think are going to that will play a big part of who's in the driver's seat. And if Utah comes out on top and we beat Kansas, which is distinct, is very possible, the Utah ASU game could be gigantic. Now I'm not going to make any predictions about that. Yes, I'm looking too far ahead, but I start with the quarterbacks, and I think we're going to start seeing. If Cam Rising is healthy, I think it's going to help them a whole lot. I'm not real impressed watching U of A, especially because of the defense they have right now. And
oh yeah, especially if you watch them on Friday against Kansas State.
Yeah. Oh boy, all three phases.
They had that good first drive and then nothing the rest of the game. So even their offense is beatable.
Oh yeah.
Frankly.
So
you can't win with a two-man show.
The most fortunate thing about that game is it wasn't a conference game, even though they played a Big 12 team. But it showed you
it was a non-conference game.
Yeah, it was because it was scheduled way in advance and so expectations. I'm not putting U of A in that going to be in the playoff thing like everybody thought because of last year.
Yeah, and we talked about it during pre-show. Those top three teams, Utah, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, they're there's some separation between them and everybody else right now.
Right.
And, that I think it's just going to show in their play. And we'll see what happens in that Oklahoma State-Utah game. That could be a determiner for who's top dog in this conference. I mean, obviously Kansas State looked very good. And they're certainly in the conversation, absolutely. But it is a long season, so we'll see who's who by the time it's all said and done.
I'm going to be looking to see if Oklahoma State can put together four quarters, and especially two halves at this point, because they're a Jekyll and Hyde kind of team right now to me. I mean, Utah's not playing dominant either right now. I don't know what's going on there. Not
having Cam Rising, I think, has affected them a little bit.
Right.
That's something they for whatever reason they seem to get better as the season goes on.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of been a calling card of Kyle Whittingham, and this is believed to be his last year as head coach before he retires. So it'd be interesting to see what they look like by season's end as well. And then where do you think ASU fits into all of this? Are they? Well, a lot of people work. Obviously they were picked to finish last in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Are they in that middle tier with some of these other teams?
I always look at this 12-team conference in terms of thirds. 4, and 4. 16, excuse me, 16. I look at it at 4, 4, and 4. Are you in the top 4 or are you in the middle 4, the middle 8 or the bottom 4? And I do think that we talked about number of wins at the beginning of the season. And my expectation of who we're going to beat will continue to be dynamic here. Will change. But I do still think that we have the depth and the athleticism to get the 6 games. Where we're going to get it, it's I'm at beginning of the year, I wouldn't have thought we were going to beat U of A. I kind of think we could. The fact that we had to play them so, at the end, if we played U of A today, I think we beat U of A. If we played UCF today, I think we beat UCF. I just think some of these teams are going to it's going to change over time. Obviously, depth and athleticism is going to be as you come down the home stretch, it's going to mean everything. But I don't know. I still, to me, the 2 teams to beat. 3 teams to beat on paper, so Kansas State, Oklahoma State, and Utah, and we'll know a whole lot more after this weekend with Oklahoma State and Utah.
Yeah, well, it's always fun to watch. Always interesting.
I was very impressed with Kansas State. Watching how they put together great 4 quarters and
their defense.
Yes.
From what they were able to do to U of A and basically. Shut them down, keep them out of the end zone after that first drive was extremely impressive. So, they've got even though their quarterback's kind of young, he did kind of have that blunder there right at the end of the half.
Yes.
that was still a very extremely impressive performance.
But I think
team
if we can hang around with this defense, hang around, even if we play poorly, you saw in this last game what could happen with this team. Defense will keep you in it. Defense is going to be our calling card. So I think there's some games in here, even though we're going to play 4 ranked teams. I don't know if U of A will fall out of that. I mean, they've already fallen out of the top 25, but you're still playing 4 ranked teams coming up here. Um, I think as long as we're hanging around, I think the defense gives us a chance to win, and I do think we can finish in that top 4 to 5. I think that in that top we could finish in that top 4 with what I'm seeing so far.
Yeah, I don't even put the conference into thirds.
Yeah.
That's as far as like you got 5, 6, 5,
yeah,
somewhere in there. And yeah, right now I think we're kind of in the middle tier. But there, by season's end, I think we are certainly a possibility for us to get up into that top 5 and make some noise. So, I said at the beginning of the year, I wanted to see. I think that the season is a success if we beat one of those ranked teams,
mm-hmm.
and I think we're certainly capable of it. So it should be fun to watch getting into this new schedule, facing some of these new teams, going to new places, seeing, having new different experiences. It should be good for the players to get to watch, especially the ones who've been in the Pac-12, been on this team for a couple of years,
right.
and played against Pac-12 teams. Now they're switching over to the Big 12. Should be a good experience for them.
And the fact that we're playing, we have 4 teams in Texas we have to play in this conference, and being able to shift our recruiting from California a little more over towards to Texas, it's already paying dividends. We sounds like we're going to land a really nice quarterback out of El Paso based on everything that took place after the game and the trips that our Kenny and company took. I just expect more of that to keep as the wins start to rack up here. I think you're going to start seeing taking away some of the better players.
Coaching staff didn't go home after the game. They stuck around, went to some high school games, visited with some prospects. So they took advantage of the trip. They put in some work while they were there, which was nice to see.
We got a great offensive. We got an offensive tackle out of looks like a left tackle out of Hawaii. Yeah, yep. And we got a nice quarterback out of El Paso. But that quarterback, by the way, he's a 26 kid. But anyway, it's all coming together. And I think you give the staff a lot of credit for working their tails off.
Definitely trending up, trending in the right direction.
That's right.
It's always good to see. So getting into this week's Big 12 opener against Texas Tech. Oh, the Masked Rider.
The Masked Rider.
Yeah, guns out. Their TT. I always remember N'Keal Harry scoring that touchdown against them in 2017. Full string the gun. Love it. But Texas Tech coming in 2-1 record, 3rd season under head coach Joey McGuire, 17-12 in that time, and they got a couple ASU connections. Former U of A defensive coordinator Marcel Yates is their secondary coach and defensive passing game coordinator. And CJ Ayu might be the name might be familiar to a lot of ASU lifers. His uncle, Junior Ayu, was a great Sun Devil. I believe he's in the Hall of Fame at ASU.
Right.
And definitely, he's the outside linebackers coach. And so, it's definitely some connections with this team. They edged Abilene Christian in the opener, 52-51. I believe that game. I want to say that game went into overtime.
Yeah, it did.
Yes, it did. And so, against I think that was probably a bye game, if I'm not mistaken. It was probably was. You've seen a lot of these teams losing bye games, in their non-conference schedule. It's crazy. And then they get,
they paid him $1 million.
Get handled by Washington State. Hey, what's going on with the Cougars? Ever since they got into the Pac-2, it's the Pac-2. Suddenly they're playing like their hair is on fire. They had the week 3 Apple Cup against their rival, and they come out with the win.
I like who
they're looking. They're looking legit.
They made Washington look kind of dumb.
Yeah, I know. And then they made Texas Tech look not look very good either. I mean, holding that offense to 16 points is pretty impressive. But then Texas Tech bounces back, and they beat up on North Texas last week by 45 in a game that really wasn't even that close. They really took it to the Green Wave.
Yeah, everybody got in on the act on that one.
Yeah, that's right. And they were kind of one of those middle tier teams, kind of picked to finish 9th in the preseason after their quarterback, local kid from Chandler, Tyler Show, transferred to Louisville.
Right.
And they were, but they, that's been the calling card of Texas Tech in their histories. They've always been able to put points on the board.
Yeah.
And this team is certainly no different as we move on here. 45 points a game, 539 yards of total offense. They've actually been able to run the ball very well. This is not the air raid, Cliff Kingsbury,
right,
Mike Leach type of offense. They'll spread them out still. They are kind of a pass first team, but they've been able to run the ball really well. They've been a little bit more balanced this year, averaging about 180 yards on the ground per game. That's about right. But it starts with their quarterback, Baron Morton. He's having himself a nice year as the first-year starter. 79-19, almost 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, and just 2 interceptions. He is more of a true pocket passer. He's not really going to beat you with his legs, but he does have 1 rushing touchdown, but he's only managed 1 net rushing yard through the course of the season. So he's not. These guys going to stick in the pocket and try to let his skill position guys make plays. But he's got the most touchdown passes by a Texas Tech quarterback through 3 games since that 2016 season with Patrick Mahomes. So he's definitely in good company and he's looked pretty good. I watched some of that North Texas game. He definitely moved the team up and down the field at will in that game.
Well, so Mahomes is the benchmark, right, for those guys. And but it's nice to see. Like you're right, they're not setting up the pass.
That was always the knock on Texas Tech on air raid quarterbacks.
Right.
They didn't play because they didn't play in a pro style offense. They didn't run a huddle. They never played under center. They really weren't all that thought of. They couldn't really run a pro style offense. Well, the lines between NFL and college have kind of blurred since then. The NFL has kind of adopted the college style a little bit more with how much they spread it out, how much they run out of the shotgun, all those things. And it's, given guys like Patrick Mahomes opportunities if they have the football IQ to be successful.
And conversely, the colleges have started to run more pro of all those varieties of pro sets now on
concepts. Yeah.
Basic.
That's true.
So that's the melding.
I mean, Texas Tech's not a true air raid. Certainly, they don't throw the ball 50 times a game if they don't have to. So,
Leach. I remember when Leach was at Washington State, he threw the ball 70 times.
Oh, I remember.
He set up the pass to set up the pass to set up the pass. My goodness.
And that was kind of the Texas Tech team that we saw last. Was they used their running backs basically as extra receivers out of the backfield or blockers. But Taj Brooks has really come on and been a solid player for them. He had over 1,000 yards last year. He's off to a great start this year. 44 carries, 262 yards, and a couple touchdowns. He is definitely somebody that you got to watch out for because they'll let him rumble, and he's not just a receiver out of the backfield anymore. He is a legit rushing threat. But so is his the true freshman that they have, Cameron Dickey. He's having himself a nice year as well. He's going to become a good receiver out of the backfield, good third down back with his 7 catches for 42 yards and a touchdown through the air. And he was forced into service because their slated bookmark backup Cameron Valdez is out for the season. So Cameron Dickey, the true freshman, has had to step in and has played very well to this point.
So Brooks is averaging 6 yards a carry. My question is,
oh, yeah.
is he really a 6 yards per carry guy, or does he just have a whole bunch of big runs in there that have skewed it?
Well, they might be a little bit skewered. I mean, I saw a little bit. They didn't. The game was pretty much out of hand
Right.
by halftime, so he didn't really get a ton of run against North Texas. But he's put together some nice games.
Sure.
I mean, if you look at his splits, certainly I think that he's certainly capable of it. He's a big bat. He's a little bit on the bigger side.
Well, so here's my question: is his 6 yards a carry compared to Cam's almost 8? If you look at the stats when they all even out, which one is more legit? And just depends what kind of deep, how many they're putting in the box, right? And we'll get into that in a second, but I do think that we are very, very good at our run defense is outstanding. That's one of our real calling cards, I think. So I think
Texas State only ran for about 130 yards.
That's right.
Against us, which was nice to see.
Right.
I mean, that's the other thing. That's the other thing about Taj Brooks. He didn't even play against in the Washington State game.
Right.
And he had 27 carries for 150 yards against Abilene Christian, 17 for 109 against North Texas. So
that's good.
Those numbers are a little bit skewered because he didn't play in the best game on their schedule.
Right.
And Washington State was very tough on that team. They only ran. I mean, they run for 148 yards as a team, but it was without their best running back.
Sure.
So, but I still think he's a solid player and definitely somebody who's capable of the big play. They really haven't faced. He really hasn't faced any tough competition to this point. And then you get into their receiving core, and of course Texas Tech, they like to spread the ball around. Josh Kelly's kind of been the top receiver so far this year. 21 catches, 287 yards, 2 touchdowns. Coy Eakins having a nice year too, 11 catches, 200 yards, and 3 touchdowns. It's kind of their big play, deep threat. I think Caleb Douglas, 10 receptions, 137 yards, and a touchdown. They're kind of the top 3 guys, but they'll certainly spread the ball around in this offense. You got some other guys. Jordan Brown has got over 100 yards receiving on the year.
Mm-hmm.
John Carlos Miller, 82. Micah Hudson has 47. So, they have some other guys. They'll work in a lot of different guys and spread the ball around. And a very familiar name to ASU fans on this roster transfer, Jalen Conyers, the tight end. 11 catches, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns on the season for him. His exit out of Tempe was a little bit sour because he wasn't in shape very much last year. He was kind of expected to be an impact player, and he ended up getting kind of passed over on the depth chart when it was all said and done. And he's what do you make of this matchup for John with Jalen Conyers?
Oh, I think he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. I think he's going to want to go out and show that he's all that. That he's.
And the fact that Texas Tech is even using a tight end in the receiving game is
right.
very impressive too, because that was another thing that they really didn't do. It was all receivers all the time. And tight ends were mostly decoys and blockers.
Right. And so the question is, which Jalen Conyers shows up? Is it the first year Jalen Conyers at ASU where that took 3 and 4 guys to bring him down and he got lots of yards after the catch? Or was it the last year he was here where the first man to touch his leg, he was down? So when you're in football shape, you're more towards the former than the latter. So I just, from watching his film already, he looks like he's back in shape again, and he wants to finish off his senior year with and get drafted. He wants to get paid. So
we'll see how he looks on Saturday. But a running theme with Texas Tech this year has been injuries. I mentioned Taj Brooks. missed the Washington
Right.
State game with an injury. Their starting left guard, Vinny Scurry, had to go out against North Texas, and he's was announced this week. He's out for the season. Sterling Porche, their starting left tackle, had a concussion, and he's questionable for this week. So they're a little bit banged up on that left side on the offensive line. Something that ASU's defense can take advantage of.
Yep.
But going on to Texas Tech's defense, they run a 3-4-3-3-5 hybrid. They're giving up a lot of yards so far this year, or 461 yards a game, including 180 on the ground. And they have just 2 total sacks as a team. And a big reason why is they've been bitten by the injury bug really badly at outside linebacker, where Dylan Spencer and Joseph Adedire are both out for the season. Charles Esters III is going to miss this week's game, and Harvey Dyson III is questionable with a foot injury. So they're a little bit beat up at the pass rusher spot, Big John, which is why their pass rush has kind of struggled so far this year.
We saw it at Mississippi State. If you don't have a great nose tackle, your defense is going to suffer. And
every defense is like this. They have a linchpin. They have like certain positions.
Correct.
That if they're not healthy, or they don't have the right player in the position,
the depth,
they're going to struggle.
Right.
And that was Mississippi State had that problem with their nose tackle. Sometimes it's just the way they run a particular defense. It's just that one position that kind of ties it all together. And right now Texas Tech defense doesn't really have an identity. They struggle. They forced some turnovers against some bad teams, but this is still a team that is vulnerable and can be hit for big plays. Certainly, so especially with the players that they have out, and it extends into their secondary too, because they're missing some guys. They're going to be, if John, if you go on to the next slide, they're Javion Wilcox, one of their DBs, will be out for this week, and 2 of their best defensive players in the secondaries, C.J. Baskerville, Braylon Lutz, are both questionable, along with Brendan Jordan. So this secondary is a little bit beat up. Certainly, some that ASU should take advantage of. You'd like to think. So even if these guys play, odds are they're not going to be 100%.
No, I see. I see all. This is quite a list. This is kind of scary. And this is. And we'll go right after these. Especially if they're young replacements. So.
They do have some players, some guys who will get after it a little bit. Jacob Ramirez, their outside linebacker, has stepped up with some of these injuries. He's got 21 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, pass deflection, and forced fumble this year. And then some other guys like next to him, middle linebacker Ben Roberts, 17 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 forced fumbles. And then up front, Marion Banks has played very well, 3 tackles for loss himself. And then on the back end, Chapman Lewis, I believe, is a corner. They just have him listed as a DB, but I think he's a corner. He's got a couple interceptions on the season. So these are some guys who can make plays. They certainly have forced some turnovers this year, but they've struggled in the pass rush. And then they've given up a lot of yards on the ground. So this is a team that's struggling up front, and they have some injuries on the back end as well. So they're certainly vulnerable. And someone that as a unit, you can if you play it right, you have opportunities for big plays.
Mm-hmm.
And our keys to the game, presented by Sleep in Heavenly Peace, a great nonprofit that builds beds for families in need. Check out Sleep in Heavenly Peace. For me, I know I sound like a broken record every week. I'm talking about the ground game, but that is ASU's identity as an offense. They are a run-first team. They're built to run. They do it very well. And this is a defensive unit that's banged up, and they've given up some big yards. They gave over 300 yards on the ground to Washington State a couple weeks ago. It's a team you need to run the ball against. Even if they have 7, 8 in the box, there's opportunity there, believe me, because you're going up against some second and third team guys that they're on the depth. They're buried on the depth chart for a reason. So
Yeah.
you can run the ball and control the clock and keep that high-powered offense on the sideline and out of rhythm. I think you give yourself a good chance to win this game, and that's kind of a common theme. But ASU with kind of a young quarterback, that's kind of going to have to be their offense. The offense is going to have to dictate the defense and keep the opposing offense off the field. Just going to have to be how they win games for the most part this season, especially going up against some of these Big 12 offenses that can put points up in bunches.
And Ryan, we have a really deep running back room, and yet we're still running 11 personnel. Folks, that's one running back, one tight end.
Spread teams out. That's more and get a couple guys out of the box.
My real question behind that is, and we've ran 12 personnel a few times. My question is, do you think it's now that we have you're getting some of your running backs? Rayleigh Brown's not back again, folks. He's still hurt. But we still have. But I'm just wondering if there's not going to be an opportunity to see more two-back sets as a result of we haven't done much of it. We've only about 1% of the time we've run a two-back set so far of our plays.
And I mean, I think there could be some opportunity there, depending on if the Carlos Brooks is healthy.
Yeah.
He missed the Texas State game.
Right.
If he's back out there, they've run sets with him and Scadaboo on the field at the same time, and they've worked well. I'll be interested to see what happens with that because I think there is some opportunity for that. But yeah, I'd like to see some 22 personnel.
Oh, I would too. But
smash mouth. Everybody in the building knows you're going to run the ball. That doesn't mean they can stop you. With the way that I've been very impressed with these tight ends and their ability to run block.
And twice now you've seen in short yardage where we're putting a big O lineman back there as a fullback.
That too. So I mean, I like the sets that they're using with the running game.
Mm-hmm.
The success that they've had, even though they struggled a little bit against Texas State, they didn't go away from the run too much. They still utilized it. It was still there, and
right.
it helped them salt the game away at the end.
Oh yeah.
So it's still going to be there, even though Texas Tech's going to try to pack the box and try to stop the run. I'm confident that ASU has the ability to and the personnel to blow some people off the ball and give these running backs opportunities.
We really didn't talk about this in any earlier, but did the number of penalties kind of bother you, or have you alarmed as to sort of getting a little sloppier in places?
Well, I mean, there were 8 penalties, but they were only for 34 yards.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not even 5 yards per penalty.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not too concerned. I mean, hey, if I was Texas State, I'd be more concerned because they had 8 penalties for 69 yards.
Correct.
One of those was that targeting penalty that some people called into question, but
we had one too that came out. Yeah.
Yeah, that was overturned. That was not targeting, by the way. No, I'm not too concerned. Some of those calls in the Mississippi State game were a little ticky tack, if not completely wrong.
The late hit, the piling on, that was
the phantom holding on the fourth down against Keyshawn Elliott.
That was weird.
Was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not too concerned at this point. I mean, so there's a few things that still need to be cleaned up, but I mean, remember, you don't have a preseason. You don't have preseason games in college football,
well,
so that's what the non-conference schedule is for.
I keep seeing our right tackle, misfire on when he's lining up. He's jumping early. He's done that I think 2 or 3 times now. But I think we'll clean that up.
Every offense is going to have issues with that. It is what it is. I'm not too concerned.
Well, it's going to be
as long as penalties aren't costing us games, and they haven't yet.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any cause for alarm. But sticking with the keys to the game on defense, I think you got to let some of these ball hawks loose and let the DBs on the back end go up and get some of these balls, because they're gonna have opportunities against this Texas Tech team that loves to throw the ball all over the yard. Xavier, we saw Xavier Alford go up and get a big interception last week. I'd like to see Shamari Simmons or Miles Rouser come down with one as well. You got Javon Robinson, Keith Abney, both guys. They're starting to look better week in and week out. I think that this is an opportunity for the pass rush to kind of pin their ears back and get after, especially with some of those injuries they have up front on that offensive line.
Sure.
It'll be a bigger opportunity for the pass rush to force some bad decisions and let those ball hawks go up and get some balls. I'd like to see 2 turnovers in this game. I feel like if ASU can do that, they give themselves a good chance to win.
I think ball hawking is a big part of that. It's how you drill, but it's also film study too. So I think if they've really done their homework on film study, that it should be a lot easier for them this week, because there's going to be a lot of balls in the air. Okay. So I'm with you. Run the ball, make them stack the box, and once they do, let's go use those. We have a nice tight end room and a nice wide receiver room, and
hey, those throws up the seam were there against Texas State.
There you go.
And I have no reason to suspect they won't be against Tech either.
Yeah, I saw it last week. I think it was something we that we can keep building on, keep taking advantage of. And you just want to keep their offense off the field. So long, sustained drives. I know it may be boring, folks, that the run it. You might want to see the ball in the air a lot, but when you got a beast like Scatterboot, just feed him, man. Just feed him. And I think our guys like blocking for him. That's the thing. So, and on the other,
and you know what they said? Syracuse used to say about Ernie Davis.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a thoroughbred, you don't lock him in the barn.
Nope. I do think this will be another fourth quarter game. We're not just like Texas State. It took all 4 quarters and a lot of effort. Guys hanging in there. I was really happy, but because we were sort of our defense line was beat up. We're getting some guys back. We're getting Prince Dorba back. We're getting linebacker Jordan Crook back, and we're getting an offensive lineman Naha back. So we're going to be deeper. We're going to be fresher. That's going to make a difference to help us play deep into the fourth quarter.
Zach Swanson didn't play against Texas State. He might be back.
Or Gaika
played a little bit against Texas State.
Right.
But his status is a little bit up in the air. But if he's back as well, that D line should be very strong.
Yeah. Coach Shillingham inferred that one of those 2 probably will be back and will travel. So again, this is going to be another. Keep your head in the game for all 4 quarters. Don't be looking at the scoreboard. Do how play like you've been like you're being coached. What the play calls for. But again, you're absolutely right. This whole defense is predicated on making great stops and turnovers. So if we can make those 3 big stops like we did in the fourth quarter, and it's a fourth quarter game, you got a real good chance of winning this game.
All right, so those are our keys to the game presented by Sleep in Heavenly Peace. And now it's prediction time.
Here we go.
I always love to make our predictions here on Running with the Devils. I was only a couple points off last week, Big John. You were almost spot on against Mississippi State. I was nearly exactly right against Texas State. So this week, I think this will be still be a 1-score game, but I think ASU will get a big turnover late in the fourth quarter, and they'll turn that into points, and that will ultimately be able to pull away and kind of break Texas Tech spirit at that point and come away with a victory.
Yeah, I'm really counting on it being a 4-quarter game, tight, and I think that I think you made the point in the pregame that you expect it to go back, the leads to change hands once or twice. I don't think that phases this group at all.
First half.
Yeah, I don't think that phases this group at all. But I do see us hanging in there in the fourth quarter, hanging around, and because of our depth and athleticism, we'll come out on top. And I do see a late field goal, or at two field goals at least in this game. So 34-30 ASU. So that's the gist of it, man.
Yeah,
Um,
and that'll do it for us this week on RWD. Appreciate you guys joining us. Hit the like and subscribe buttons. Check us out every week during the ASU football season, as we'll talk everything Sun Devils, give you everything you need to know leading into this week's game. So we say good night. Go Devils. Forks up. Big John, let's holster those Red Raiders.
yeah, baby.